for anyone who really is wishing to live a life of love and happiness, joy, delight, intimacy, freedom. If that is your heart's desire, then what must be realized is, as a body-mind, one is full of patternings. One is full, as an adult, one is always dramatizing and being reactive. One's got to realize that which is detrimental to living a life of happiness and joy and delight and love and happiness. Represented by the open hand disposition, the body-mind will embrace all of dualities, all the opposites in life. The ups and the downs and the ins and the outs, the roughs and the smooths, the wets and the dries, the goods and the bads. Conditional life is full of opposites and contradictions. But as a body-mind, as a so-called adult, we are far from embracing all of this duality, due to the fact that we are mechanical, very mechanical, dramatizing patterns and tendencies, which all come from this place, the clenched fist disposition. Personalities against personalities, my likes against your likes and dislikes, everyone at war with one another, I am right and you are wrong. We've got to understand what we are doing to prevent the body-mind from living as its natural, inherent state of love, bliss, joy, delight, intimacy, all embracing of all the ups and the downs, the quiets and the louds, the surprises. All of this is arising. One day, if you've not already, is to realize that all of conditional life is God's play, or the play of consciousness. And then, at the same time, you will realize that it is only, no matter what the modifications are and all the appearances, only God. There is only God. All these bits and pieces, all these curves and straight lines, all this that's been manufactured, the curtains, what can you see here? The curtains, the ceiling, the white, the door, the handle, the hinge, the curtains, so that. What can we see? The curtain rail, the beam, the marks, all that, which is one. It's just one. There's no division. It looks as if there's a separate door, a separate curtain, but it's all linked. It's all one. It's all made of the same stuff. Light, energy, the God stuff. God's not separate. This is God. I'm very I'm not happy about using the word God because of all the connotations, all the historic interpretations of the word God, the childish and adolescent definitions of God. But going back to what one has to understand is that the human being, the body-mind, does not have to be living as it is, full of these neurotic tendencies, emotional outbursts, reactivity, all stemming from this disposition, the clenched fist. Consider all the thousands and millions CDs there are, and DVDs there are. They all start off as a blank. And then, due to recording studios and what have you, each CD and DVD has imprinted upon it something different. Maybe something similar, but different. But you're not going to say that all the CDs themselves are different. They're all the same. A CD is a CD is a CD prior to having anything put on it. Well, in some ways that's like the body-mind. We're all the same. Different shapes possibly, but we all have a heart, we all have lungs and kidneys and stomachs and intestines. We all have a genitalia, we have eyes, we have noses, ears. Yes, there are some disabilities and deformities, but generally speaking, it's like the CDs. Sometimes they're produced and they're malfunctioning, so they have to be thrown away, but they're not. They're just in a different place. We don't do that necessarily with human beings, but at one time they were. Maybe they still are in some countries. But you see, you understand what I'm saying. So these tendencies that we have are preventing us from living as, if you like, God intended, as an open hand. How do we get from this to this? How can we see clearly and hear clearly, like unto an open hand? How can we move from one function to another function easily and effortlessly? Well, I had to have a teacher, and his name was Adidas Samraj. This is a picture of him when he was younger. He was known as Baba Free John then. And the most liberating advice or instruction that he gave me and his devotees was regarding attention. He said, wherever you place your attention, create your destiny. So you might place your attention on that door handle, and you go and open the door handle, and your destiny is through that door, or that door. You see a cup, you see the handle. You pick up the cup, you drink it. That was all part of your destiny. All to do with attention. But the fact is that most people's attention is turned in upon themselves, meditating on themselves. Adidar taught me that that's been narcissistic. Dwelling on yourself creates this clenched fist disposition. But when we redirect our attention, and he would say, redirect it to the sun, forget the clouds. He would say, forget yourself. Stop remembering yourself. Stop dwelling on yourself. Be free of those tendencies and patternings. Everyone, every human being in this world, if they are able to, can open that door. Every human being in the whole wide world can go into that room. It's a possibility, not an actuality. Due to attention. So, Adidar taught me to redirect my attention. He taught me this 35 years ago, half my lifetime. I've been practicing what he calls self-forgetting, God remembering. And by doing so, one enters into a God destiny. One enters into that place that is God made, that is joy, happiness, delight. No matter what's arising, there's no reactivity to what's arising. None whatsoever. From this disposition, one reacts. But from this disposition, one responds. So as an open hand, we can respond to the conditions of life. We can open the door and not react. When it rains, we don't react, we respond. When someone is unpleasant, instead of reacting, we respond. We become God-possessed, possessed by God, by the Spirit of God, by the divine. No matter what is arising right now, no matter what, it can be embraced. So the natural state, the inherent state, is no involvement. The hand isn't involved. It's like the spoon. The spoon isn't part of the mixture that it's picking up, or the breakfast cereal. The spoon is indifferent to what it is used for. And the hand itself is indifferent. But due to our ability to consider, we can consider what to use the spoon for, or what we can use the hand for. Are you understanding? From this place, there is an indifference, a natural, inherent indifference. It's not coming from this, oh, I don't care about you anymore, don't you anymore. Reactivity. That's reaction. That's not embracement. That's not a mature way to live. Only in the God place which must be realized. The God place, the space that is God, is omnipresent. It never ever leaves us, but we leave that. So here's the God space, the place of God, that space, and this is what we do. We separate ourselves from it instead of embracing it. So Adidar often said, we are avoiding being in relationship to everything that's arising. So we take anything, and there is a love connection. There is an embracement. Our disposition of the open hand place never changes when we read something, when we consider something. Everything is, so these little sweets. Shall I have one now? Shall I have it later? We hear the rattle. We're there with the rattle. We're not elsewhere. We're with the scissors. We can hear the scissors. We are aware. We are conscious. Adidar asks us to be conscious all the time of what's arising, because we are naturally, inherently consciousness. Then we see things clearly. We see whether the plant needs watering. We see things clearly without adding what he calls the self-contraction. We're not separating ourselves. There's no history in this place. We don't base our considerations and decisions on history. It's a heart matter. Our decisions come from the heart place. People say I must get a new phone case, but I haven't yet. There's a message for me about an osteopath session I've booked. Body mind needs looking after. There's an intelligence and a natural inherent intelligence that this forgets, that this isn't able to live as. Only the open hand disposition is intelligent. So we see damage. We can decide right now to repair or not to repair, to replace or not to replace. Life becomes happy and happier because we're making conscious decisions. We're using our intelligence, the God intelligence, which is natural to us all. The God intelligence is not just for a few people like Adidar Sambhaj who have been willing to teach and to embrace all kinds of people in order to instruct them on the way of being already happy. Let me read a little bit from his teaching. Find it. What is there? The book I was thinking of, Compulsory Dancing, isn't there, but this book, The Incarnation of Love, is just full of divine wisdom. Most people are hypercritical of others and find it impossible to associate with others truly, or even to truly enjoy being alive, because life is not perfect yet. So many millions of people are looking for perfection. So many millions of people are hypercritical of one another. All coming from this disposition of separation. Just that one sentence. Most people, there's a very few people who are willing to live in and as the open hand disposition. People are self-indulgent and irresponsible. When people talk to one another, they talk about their hard times. And the three main subjects are money, food, and sex, or relationships. Everyone is problematic in those areas of life. People gossip a lot. People are very casual. People are very unconscious. People live by habits, very mechanical. But to be a true human being, for the body-mind to be lived and sustained by that spirit, that divine force, that love energy, requires the sacrifice of attention. And it's feeling attention. To sacrifice that, then one's body-mind, which is God's, is given over to God. God being that great force, that love place, that love bliss. Every individual is seeking for perfection, seeking to be loved, seeking to be liked, seeking to be right. The natural inherent state is indifferent, likened to the open hand. Is indifferent to what it embraces. Yes, there is a right way to live, a good diet, a good way of behaving in society. Of course, there's rules and regulations to follow. As an open hand, in that disposition, one is willing to abide by the laws of the country, the bylaws of the county. Only from this disposition is one reactive and not cooperative. From this disposition, one is already tolerant, already compassionate, already happy to be with one another. From this place we can discern and decide, no, I don't want that company anymore. They're too childish or too adolescent. You discriminate, you discern. And it's due to the help of the enlightened, the master, the spiritual master. Most people are unhappy. Really, they are unhappy, including you, no doubt. Not in the unhappy, not in that place of depressed, but you're unhappy with your situation, with your circumstance, because you're always looking for more. You're always wanting more stimulation, more consolation, more knowledge, more of this, more of that. Never content. always coming from this place. So we've got to start devoting our life, devoting our attention to that which is always already happy. As Adida has said, attention gravitate towards the sun, away from the clouds. Devotion to God, devotion to happiness, devotion to joy and delight, devotion to being already in relationship. Listen to the chapters of the Incarnation of Love on my channel. If you are a Christian, you may have heard that Jesus said, love God first, and then your neighbour. People try to love their neighbour and their friends and family members without first loving God. If the hand is dirty and you need to do something, well, you don't want to go around with a dirty hand, so you clean it first, and then it can do the acts of love. So we've got to be clean, we've got to be cleansed of all this nonsense first, before we can love one another. Our emotional baggage, due to the self-contraction, our fears, our doubts, our anxieties, our concerns, all coming from this place. I'll read this little passage. This is one verse, if I have it. Everything's getting moved. Where is that? Here it is. From this place, Adidas says, if I am not devotionally recognized, there is an enormity of world and ego self to be figured out. And there are always a lot of things yet to seek and do. So many problems to conquer. So many things to do. I've got to be busy all the time, because you don't recognize this disposition. Devotion to the open hand disposition. But when one has devotionally recognized this place, this God space, there is not anything to do anymore, because there is no problem, and therefore no basis for seeking, none whatsoever. So that's the difference between these places, the two dispositions. To live like this requires the body-mind to be vulnerable. It requires the body-mind to be surrendered, to be sacrificed. Are you willing to give up this nonsense for the sake of this? Are you wanting to live a life of real happiness and joy? Adidas says you've got to be fed up with this, disillusioned. You're never going to be made happy, never. You can only be happy. I'm still looking for that little book called Compulsory Dancing. I think Billy might have had it. Let's see whether it's over there. This is another little book called The God in Everybody. The God in Everybody. It's all about devotion and changing one's destiny by redirecting one's attention. And then we can live as God intends. You must give up to God. That is it. If you do that, you will also be integrating yourself with all the forms of learning, association, change, growth, maturity. We need to surrender and transcend ourselves. Release of all obstruction, all contraction, all holding on, all fear of death, all need for survival. You must give yourself up altogether. You don't have to find out many things before you do that. See, everyone's grasping hold of knowledge. We want more and more knowledge, more head stuff. Everyone's looking for the answers. A clenched fist or an open hand. Every day I decide to go away from this to this. I give it all up. So the realization of God is the realization of this open hand disposition, which is the God space. Thank you for listening. Do ask any questions in the comments. I'd be happy to Zoom with you. Thank you. Blessings.